Hey everybody and Happy New Year! I'm coming at you with one last video for 2016 and I figured I might as well do a book haul. So here is my December book haul. So apologies in advance because obviously I didn't post a video within the last month. I got whacked pretty hard with the strep throat virus that went around, and it's really hard to make a video when you can't speak. It was incredibly painful. I'm very glad that I'm over it, and so I'm hoping to do a little bit better with this in the new year. So unfortunately that does mean that I missed out on my November book haul, so there's a whole bunch of books on the shelf over there that are not going to be included in this because I technically bought them in November. But that's okay. I'm still going to read them. I'm hopefully still going to do some reviews of them. And eventually, come the new year, I'm also going to be posting a video about the Goodreads 2016 challenge that I completed and surpassed. I am very happy about that, and I will hopefully have that up for you guys in the next couple of days as well. So, let's start off with the book haul. So, when you get emails from a bookstore and they say, hey, look, it's 50% off for Boxing Day, if you're slightly impulsive and you buy things like me, you tend to come back with a lot of books. And I mean a lot of books, okay? Now, in my defense, of the 26 that were originally purchased at this one bookstore, they were not all mine. I also took my brother and my sister with me, and that was their Christmas gift, so they each picked up 6 or 7. The rest of them, however, especially after we went to chapters afterward, big mistake. I now have, I think, 18 additional books that I have to find space for on bookshelves and I have to read. So, let's give her a whirl, shall we? While Beauty Slept by Elizabeth Blackwell is a book that I literally just picked up because the title and the imagery on it was really interesting. It very much feels like it's a kind of Sleeping Beauty retelling, but it's going to involve somebody who hangs around and stays with the princess while she's asleep, so that she's not by herself like she is in the original Grimm classic, because if anybody who's read the original Grimm classic, you know that that's not really a good thing. It's very bad that she gets left by herself, because she kind of gets taken advantage of by some visiting prince and has kids while she's sleeping. No, it doesn't sound all that pleasant, does it? So I'm looking forward to reading this one because it's, a different perspective of the same story, and, obviously, with these old fairy tales, you take certain liberties too. You add characters, you add events, so I'm curious to know what that one's going to be like. The next one I picked up was The Heretics Wife by Brenda Rickman Van Trees. Sure, let's go with Van Trees. This one is essentially, it takes place in England during the Elizabethan period. So there was all that conflict between, Catholicism and the Protestants, and, whose religion was better and whose religion was right, because one religion, obviously they were different, right? Protestants saw Catholicism as being, a little more self-serving, really gaudy, more about the probably more about the human being and the soul as opposed to worshipping their god. So there was a lot of conflict about that, and this one's going to be about printed materials, the Bible, whether it's supposed to be printed in English or Latin, what other languages, whose translations, that sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. The Woman Who Would Be King by Kara Cooney is a book about ancient Egypt, actually. Okay, I'm just gonna lie, I'm not gonna be able to say this name, let's be real. This was essentially a book about a woman who, without any brothers to take over the ruling of Egypt, became a cross-dresser and paraded herself around as a man so that she could rule without necessarily facing the stigmatism of, oh, you're a woman, you can't do that. So this book I'm really interested to read because not only is it going to be historical and slightly biographical, but it's ancient Egypt, and I find that there's actually not a whole lot of books about ancient Egypt that really kind of capture. I've read the Kane Chronicles, and I thought those were fantastic, but a lot of other ancient Egyptian books seem to be more based on like the actual history aspect, so they're not necessarily like a young adult, they're not necessarily a fiction. they're nonfiction informative. Fire Wish by Amber Lowe is a book that I actually picked up because a friend of mine's sister, when I passed it by, I said, hey, you were reading this book, is it any good? She goes, uh-huh. So I thought, hey, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. So, a genie, a princess, and the wish that changes every back. Simple little description, but obviously it's going to be interesting. So I figured, hey, what the heck? The Tutor Bride by Joanna Hickson. So this is a book that's going to follow Catherine Valois, who is actually the wife of Henry V, who went down in history as being the victor of the Battle of Agincourt. So this is apparently book number 2, I think. So I have to find the first one so that I can read it first. But she essentially is going to find herself in a position that she can't be in as a queen. And she goes to hide with a loyal follower, Owen Tudor, and that's when all of this kind of starts with the Tudor section of English history, because any children that she had with him would have been illegitimate. And that's where that illegitimate line kind of goes down to Margaret Beaufort and Henry VII. So, I mean, is it going to be a fictional retelling? I still got part of the sticker in the corner that I can't get off. It's like the most annoying thing ever. But yeah, so it'll be... Okay, so Kendar Blake wrote Three Dark Crowns. I have seen nothing but good reviews about this. And my friend Asha Reeds also has a copy that she picked up in her last book haul. We went to Chapters when I picked up this one, and I was looking at it going, should I buy it? Should I wait? It looks like it's good. We had some random stranger walk up. She goes, oh no, it's a good one. It's a little slow at the beginning, but you're gonna love it. And I was like, okay, well, if a stranger's gonna be like, hey, read this book, why not? I mean, the premise is, 3 queens. Each of them's gonna have to fight to figure out who's gonna be the actual queen, because obviously a kingdom can't be ruled by more than one person. That would be bad. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. I very much, when I was thinking about it, it sounded kind of like Tudor England meets the Hunger Games, so I guess we'll find out, because apparently each of the sisters has like a supernatural kind of gift. I'm very excited to read this one. And Queen by Right by Anne Easter Smith is, this one's going to follow, I believe, Cecily of York, so Cecily Neville. Essentially, she's going to be the mom of the 3 York sons, okay? Edward, George, and Richard. And this was like the last little section of Plantagenets to have control over the English crown before the Tudors came in. So she is their mother. This is going to chronicle, I think, her life a little bit and how she came to marry her husband, Richard Neville, and all the drama that went around with the fight between the Lancaster and York families. That was the War of the Roses. So another, historical fiction, but I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty. This ever-growing pile of books, I'm like terrified it's gonna fall over before I finish. So while I was also at the book outlet in St. Catharines, I found Four Sisters All Queens by Sherry Jones, and this actually is an autographed copy that I got for 50% off. So the really cool thing about this is like, oh yeah, I'm talking like looking at all these people, and I mean it's signed. Like the author has signed this book. That's amazing. I love this. That's so cool. I actually read a book before. It'll be in my Goodreads video. About 2 of these sisters, Marguerite and Eleanor, who married kings of France and England at one point. So this book is actually going to chronicle all 4 of the sisters. So you've got Marguerite and Eleanor, but then you've also got Sancha and Beatrice, the 2 younger sisters. So I didn't know a whole lot about this little section of British history, just because like it was so far back that there was only like some significant things that tend to lead up, and I find that this far back doesn't get the same attention as obviously like the Tudor era, the War of the Roses, or even Eleanor of Aquitaine and Henry II of England. That's a little section there because it involves Richard the Lionheart and John Lackland. So for them to become part of a book, I think it's going to be really important, because that's a piece of history that seems to just kind of be like pushed off to the side, and I'm really excited to read what that one has to say about things. Okay, Sisters of Treason. This one also goes back to the Tudor era, but it's going to involve the sisters of Lady Jane Grey, the poor cousin who was sentenced to death because when her cousin Edward died, he passed over his half-sisters Mary and Elizabeth in the line of succession and went right to his cousin Jane Grey because she was Protestant. as opposed to Mary's Catholic. So she was only queen for 9 days before Mary led a successful revolution into, I guess, rebellion. She said that she led a successful rebellion into London to reclaim her throne. And after Mary was forced to have Jane executed in order to secure her throne, this book is going to look at the lives of her sisters Catherine and Mary. And I know that they had both married into some powerful families beforehand, so it's going to be interesting to see what happened to them, because Jane gets that itty bitty little footnote in history, and her sisters kind of just disappear altogether. The Queen's Governess by Karen Harper. I have read a Karen Harper book. I read the Queen's Confidant. That's what it was. So this one is actually going to look at the life of Catherine Ashley, who was the governess for Elizabeth when she was a child. She was locked up in the Tower a couple of times because of supposed threats that were going on with Elizabeth in terms of like her sister Mary's throne. She was looked at suspiciously because of her involvement with Thomas Seymour after the passing of her father, when she went to go live with the Dowager Queen Catherine Parr at Chelsea, because the two of them did not wait to marry. You're supposed to go through like a 1-year official period of mourning. Catherine didn't do that. This one is actually a classic, and I picked it up because a friend of mine insisted. It's actually The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. It's a book that I haven't read all the way through. I think like I've seen little bits and pieces of like abridged versions, but I haven't gone through the whole process of reading this classic. So I think it's about time that I did. My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brodie Ashton, and Jodie Meadows. So this is Lady Jane Grey that I was talking about earlier as like the 9-day Queen of England. This book is going to be a little different though, because it seems kind of absurd in a way. A comical, fantastical, romantical, entirely, but not really, true story of Lady Jane Grey. Yeah, there seems to be like some interesting little fantasy type stuff going on in this book. I picked it up because a lot of people said it was really good. I know that it was in an Owl Crate at one point, and I thought, okay, cool, somebody new, I'll read it. I will have to post a review about it when I'm done, because it looks a little different. The Dressmaker by Posey Graham-Evans. I have 2 of the books by Posey Graham-Evans I haven't gotten a chance to read yet. This one is, yet another one of court intrigue. It's about a young girl named Madame Ellen who is a dressmaker in the 1600s. Dangerous liaisons with powerful men, and getting herself involved with other royalty, all of those kinds of things. The cover's really pretty. Look at the flowers and the dresses. Kind of like enjoy those older style of dresses. I don't know if I'd like the corset quite so much, because nobody wants to breathe in those things, but we'll find out. Touch of Stardust by Kate Alcott. So this one kind of caught my eye because it goes back to like the days of Gone with the Wind. Like it actually invites you into like Carol Lombard and Clark Gable and stuff. So this one's going to talk about a young lady from the Midwest, Fort Wayne, Indiana, which apparently is where Carol Lombard was from. So I think it's like she's going to kind of deal with the Hollywood side of things. Production assistants who think that they can take advantage of her, or pushy directors who want something that she can't give, and she's going to find herself in a position of being friends with Carol Lombard. And for those of you who don't know, Carol Lombard's life was tragically cut short. I believe she died in a plane crash, and Clark Gable never really got over that. So it's a really sad Hollywood story, but I'm kind of interested to see how this other character kind of plays into Carol Lombard's life. Alright, so Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is the book that I have seen posted and picked up several times. I had only just got it because Asha Reeds decided to pick it up off the shelf and shove it into my hands. She goes, "Here, we want to read this one." I was like, okay. And I did actually want to read this one. I just hadn't gotten around to it. So I'm really excited. I think it's like the idea that you're training the next people to be death, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. No Will But His by Sarah A. Hoyt. So this is going to be a story about Catherine Howard, who's the 5th wife of Henry VIII. No Will But His was the motto that she picked as queen. Obviously, she decided to have affairs behind his back, and that didn't end up so well for her. Okay, we're going to ignore the 30% off sticker on this one. I have no shame, I just can't get it off. Hamilton! Anybody else who knows me knows that my life revolves a lot around musical theater, and Hamilton is a huge one right now. I really fell in love with like the historical aspect of the character and everything. So I mean, this is Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jeremy McCarter. The idea is that it's not only going to give you like all the different the song lyrics and stuff, but I mean the sketchbook, right, for like the different costumes and stuff, and it'll give you historical facts. It's gonna give you say no to this because obviously Mariah Reynolds is a bad character. Way to go, Hamilton, keep it in your pants. Alright, and the last one that I picked up was actually the only book I went into chapters wanting and immediately knowing I had to have, and that's Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorn and Roses. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. This is book 1 of 3 so far. I think number 3 is coming out shortly. I've been really hooked on Beauty and the Beast again lately, including the musical and the new movie that's coming out shortly, and the old 1991 Disney classic. So somebody recommended, she says, hey, if you like the remakes or the retellings of these classic fairy tales, like, you should definitely check this one out. Okay, cool. So, I mean, it's gorgeous. Apparently she's like a hunter who kills wolves when they get too close, and he wants retribution for the fact that she's killed a wolf. So I'm really excited to read this one. I find that a lot of them are like they're so diverse and they're different, but they're amazing. I read Cruel Beauty, which is another one. It's another Beauty and the Beast retelling where she kind of has to go and sacrifice herself essentially, and you don't like the character at first because I mean obviously he's a jerk, but then you kind of get to see little bits and pieces of no, there is an actual human being underneath all the fur and the scary demon eyes and whatever else have you, right? So, okay. Are we ready for this? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. There's actually way too many books for this. Giant pile of books. And it's balanced on my knee. Like, I can't even... Between my knee and my chin, I can't pick them all up. It's just impossible. Okay, please, please, please. There we go. Okay, so that failed. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. I'm sorry it took me so long to get it posted. And I will be hopefully getting you a new one for the Goodreads book challenge and my future goals and all this other kind of stuff like tomorrow or the day after. Okay? Thanks, guys.